Would you believe that this cityscape was drawn in just moments and actually is made of just a bunch of strokes? If you want to find out how I did it, you're in the right place. This is the Work Smarter Not Harder Dojo, and I'm Tony Harmer, aka the Design Ninja. Okay, so I'm here in a brand new document, and what we're going to do first is a little bit of drawing practice. So I'm going to get myself a rectangle, so I'll tap M to get the rectangle tool, and I'm just going to draw a rectangle like so, and then zoom in on that rectangle. I'm going to go up to the Object menu while that's still selected, and come down to the Path menu here, and choose the Offset Path command. And I've got this set to a negative value, which is perfect. That's actually just what I want there, around about -3, and I'll hit OK. Now, unlike the effect, that command actually gives us two paths straight away. I'm going to keep that middle one selected. I'm then going to go back to the Object menu, make my way down to Path, and then choose Split into Grid. And this dialog opens. I'll turn on the preview. And then I'm just going to increment the number of rows here. I think I'm after for this one about 3 rows. And I'm going to increase the gutter here just a bit like so. I think something like that. About 2 millimeters is really good. Then I'm going to come along to the columns and just add a bunch of columns like that and increase the gutter there. Maybe make that slightly larger, about 3. There like so, or even 4. Let's have a look at that. No, I think 3 was pretty good. Now, of course, yours may vary because you'll be using your own numbers and your own shape, but mine are here just as a guide. So I'll hit OK, and what I think I'm going to do here is add something that will give a little bit of dimension to some of these windows. I'm going to go to my Appearance panel so you can see it. I'm going to hold down the Command key and hit /, which gives me a brand new fill on top of all the others at the moment. So I'll drag that down beneath the original fill. Okay, and then click on the swatch here and choose something like a darker gray like so. I'll twirl open using the disclosure triangle, the options here, and I'll go to the opacity. I'm going to change this to multiply. Okay, at something like 30% should be pretty good. Anywhere in that region is really good. I'm going to go to the Effects button here, or I could go to the Effect menu, come down to Distort and Transform, and then Transform. When the dialog opens, I'm going to make sure that Preview is turned on, and then I'm going to click in the Move field here, and just use my arrow keys to increment that. Now, actually, just at 1 millimeter on mine here works really, really well. So I'll leave that at that. Yours may vary, of course. And then I'll click in the horizontal field just here. And then I'm going to increment that as well, just a bit. I just want that to spill over ever so much. I think that's pretty good there, like so. And I'll hit OK. Brilliant. So those things are all done. I'm going to now, keeping those selected, go to the Object menu. Okay, and choose to expand that appearance. That separates all of those things out into their individual strokes and fills. Okay, finally, I'm just going to get the rectangle in the background here, and I'm going to give that a color that I probably won't use in a building. I think I'm going to choose maybe something, I want to head for as much as I can close to this gray here, this sort of mid-gray. So I'm looking for something that's around about the same value as that. And I think maybe this color would work pretty well. I think that's pretty good. So going for this sort of teal color here. Excellent. Now I've done that. I'm going to select all of those things, hold down the Alt or Option key and drag down a copy like that. So we'll just go to this copy now to work there. Okay, so zooming in on that, I'll just close the Appearance panel just for a moment. What I'm going to do is select the 3rd one and 4th one and delete those. I'm then going to select on the other end pretty much the same thing there and delete those 2 and maybe just have 1 in the middle there. So I'm Nice symmetrical arrangement. I'll then get my rectangle tool and using my smart guides, Command U or Control U to toggle those, I'm going to draw something like that. I'll tap D so that that's filled with white also. Okay, and I could then just go ahead and go to the path menu here, choose split into grid and simply choose 2 columns. There, you'll see it does exactly what I want it to do and hit OK. Alternately, I could have drawn 2 rectangles. So I'll get my selection tool and with those selected, hold down the Alt or Option key and drag those 2 up to the other side and then pick on one of those and drag it to the middle there like that. Perfect. That's grand for that. Let's zoom out so we've got the whole thing here. And the final stage I'm going to do just involves me copying one of the green rectangles here. Now I'm going to make that one very short, just there like so. And I'll just zoom in a bit more because I think I'll add just one more on top of that. Remember, I'm using the Alt or Option key to drag these copies. Then I'll go out to one of the sides here, hold down Alt or Option to transform from the center and drag that out like so. Perfect. I think that works pretty well. Okay, so what I need to do then is I need to rotate these around. So I'm going to grab the first one here and group it, Command G or Control G, hold down my Shift key and rotate that around like so. I'll get the next one here and group that, hold down my Shift key and rotate that one around like so and just park that there. And then finally this one just here again, group it and then rotate it into place. Perfect. There we go. So what we need to do now is to actually make these into a tool we can use to create buildings. So now we've got everything we need. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the brushes panel here on the right hand side. It's in the window menu if you can't see that already. And then I'm going to select the middle group here. That bit is really important. Once that's selected, I'm going to go over to the new brush icon in the brushes panel and choose to make a pattern brush. When I hit OK, I get this dialog. So the first thing I could do is call this one building, like so. And I'm going to make a couple of edits here. I'm going to get rid of the auto-generated corner option or just set that to none because there won't be any corners in our building. And then let's have a look at what we've got remaining here. We've got this inner corner. We won't need that. We've got a start and we've got an end. Now, we can only bring in existing patterns here, but we've got a ninja way of hacking this. We can also make sure that everything there is just fine and we'll change our tint method here, okay, using the eyedropper. And it might be a bit fiddly to get this because you've got to find a bit of green. There we go. Like so. That means that color will be key for recoloring. If we hit OK, our brush is now pretty much set. What we're going to do is we're going to grab the first piece of artwork here, drag it over towards the brush panel, but then hold down the Alt or Option key and target the start point there like so. And you'll see you get a border in that area and it will add that. We can then hit OK. All right, we can grab our roof section, drag that in, hold down Alt or Option and target the last bit there. And you can see now that's the end point. So if we hit OK, we've now got a pattern brush. If I get my line tool here, backslash to get that, and draw a line like so, I can then apply that brush to it. There you go, that's working pretty well. Now, in case you're wondering why it's grey, that's because my stroke here is black and it's recoloring the green. So I can pretty much make this any color I want and it will recolor those items. There we go. Perfect. That's working really, really well. Now it's also a component here of the weight. Now this is what it looks like at 1 point. If I take that down to 1/4 of a point, you can see I've got some good background buildings here, 1/2 point. And of course, going the other way, they're super, super wide buildings as well. It just depends on how you're building out your artwork. Now I'll take that back to 1 point. Okay, so we can see this again. And if I get my direct selection tool, okay, and just click on the top anchor point here, it's now really easy for me to build a brush, okay, that creates all of my buildings. And as a piece of extra stuff, if you've watched to the very end of this, okay, you can use in addition, okay, with this width profile. So if I hold down the Shift key and tap W and come up to the top here to the stroke, I can then drag inwards, okay, and change completely the way the building looks. And that's properly ninja. And that's it for now. I hope you've enjoyed this, and do subscribe to the channel if you're not already. But I'll see you here in the Work Smarter Not Harder dojo next time. See ya.